This is a 2022 Lincoln Aviator, an SUV from Ford's luxury brand that's one size down from the gigantic Lincoln Navigator. More specifically, this is an Aviator Black Label Grand Touring, painted in Chroma Caviar dark gray metallic paint, which is a mouthful and a $1,750 optional color. The Aviator first arrived as a 2020 model year SUV, or returned, you could say, because the Aviator name did exist and was kind of sort of the same thing back between 2003 and 2005 model years. And between 2005 and 2020, we had things like the MKX and the MKT. Since the Aviator was introduced or reintroduced in the 2020 model year, not that much has changed since, except for the odd available package or two. But, like I said, this is the Grand Touring, and that means that this is a plug-in hybrid Lincoln Aviator. And indeed, Lincoln announced a few months back that it plans on introducing 3 new vehicles by 2025 that are EVs. So this plug-in hybrid is definitely a step on that path. And the Black Label part means that this is the top of 5 trims, or if you'd rather, 2 Grand Touring trims. It's above the Standard, the Reserve, the Grand Touring, and the Black Label. Grand Touring, then Black Label, then you put them together. And that means you get all the bells and whistles. All-wheel drive, air suspension, massaging seats, quad zone climate control, and so much more. My name is Robin Warner, by the way, an experienced engineer and magazine editor, and while I do like the color, I wouldn't eat Chroma Caviar. I review all kinds of cars, from a $25,000 Ford Maverick to a $425,000 Rolls-Royce Cullinan. I'll happily jump into Honda Accords, BMW M3s, and Porsche 911 GT3s, and I have fun every time. Please subscribe and join me. The base price for a Lincoln Navigator is around $55,000, but this being the top trim, the Black Label Grand Touring brings that cost up to $89,425. Yes, that's a big jump. And my test car did include that special paint and the Class 4 tow package, and it goes for $91,675. But with that introduction, why don't I pull over and show you around and inside the car in a bit more detail. The 2022 Lincoln Aviator is nearly 200 inches long, but critically is a rear-wheel drive based sport utility vehicle. That is very important for vehicle dynamics nerds like myself. Also, I think it's a very sharp looking shape, distinctive from the Ford Explorer, and elegant. With the price tag that it has, it better be. Looking at the car from the front, tasteful looking grille. I like the 3-dimensional patterns in here, kind of mimic the Lincoln logo shape right here, which is a nice touch. I like the chrome that has the perimeter of the grille right there. Of course, these are LED headlights right here, and you have some more lights here, and some more chrome down here. Overall, it's a nice looking front end. Looking at the car in profile, you get a much better sense of how long this thing truly is. Just under 200 inches, this car. I'll go ahead and put the dimensions up on the screen right now so you can check that out, and let you know that I have a full set of specs in the description. Now, there are a couple of details that I think are worth pointing out. I do really like the chrome on the side view mirror covers, the Aviator logo right here. The front, this is your charge port. This is where you plug it in. And then in back, this is your fuel door, and that's actually solenoid activated inside. I also quite like the chrome window trim right here and the chrome roof rails just above that. This Black Label Grand Touring Lincoln Aviator runs on 21-inch wheels, and they do fit the car appropriately in terms of filling the wheel well and all those things. And you know, even though this is 45 series rubber, you still have a decent amount of sidewall to work with. Base Aviators run on 19-inch wheels, and if you want, you can go up to 22-inch wheels on the Aviator if you choose. Looking at the car in back, pretty simple, pretty tasteful. You do have this light bar that runs the width of the tailgate here. Lincoln written across, nice and spaced out for you right there. This underneath here is your Class 4 trailer hitch, and on either side of that are your quad exhaust tips for your dual exhaust. And yes, those are real. All right, let's take a look at the cargo room. Open the hands-free liftgate and you get 18 cubic feet of cargo room behind the third row right here. And there is a bit of extra storage underneath here. You do have some extra hooks down low and a charge port right there, but you do also have power third row folding. And with a push of a button, now you have 42 cubic feet of storage and seating for 4. But if you need more space than that, yes, the second row folds as well. And now you have 78 cubic feet of storage room and space for 2. All right, let's check out the inside. Doing this slightly out of order in a way, because I'm popping into the front to start the car. Push start is up here, by the way. But that is to show you something in the back. First of all, yes, this is a 3-row SUV, but no, I'm not going to go back there because that is clearly for kids back there. The headrest just folds so you have better view out of the rear windshield if you don't have 3 rows filled, but you can see it's a very low seat bottom, definitely built for kids. I am not a child, so we'll leave it at that. But there are hooks right here if you're using the space for storage, and cup holders as well. I'm sure that children would be very comfortable back there. It looks lovely. And also, I should mention, access to the third row is just push of a button easy, and then it slides forward. But make sure to slide it back with the seat bottom first to get it back in the correct position. Okay, second row, much, much nicer. Take a look at this, and this is why I started the car, because you have a lot of controls back here. We have climate control here in the second row, and we have this nice screen here to adjust it. We also have charge ports and AC power right there. We also have sunshades. Usual equipment right here. It is a solenoid opening door, but we've also got this nice little panel right here. More space right there. And from back here, we can open the panoramic view moonroof. Lovely. And this also gives you a different view of these amazing seats, which I'll get to in just a moment. But more fundamentally, the seat bottoms are nice and high, so I have good thigh support. I have several inches of knee room right here and a less than 90-degree bend in my knees. And I also have headroom, just barely enough, but enough despite having this panoramic moonroof. So yeah, lots of space, lots of comfort. I could do a second row road trip back here for a long time without any trouble. Anyway, to the front. So the car is already running, but there are a couple things I want to show you with it off. So this is a Lincoln feature that I've really grown to appreciate over the years. If you press these 2 buttons right here, that locks the car. Neat little feature. Also, it does have wireless entry, so you can open it like that. Also, if you want, you can just lock the car this way as well. So that's a fun little thing to know. And obviously, if you have a code for the keypad, that gives you access to the car, etc., etc. Also, if you open the door and then close it softly, that's right, it is soft closing doors. Anyway, moving on to the seats. These extremely fancy, lofty looking seats. These are 30-way adjustable, massaging, heated and ventilated seats. These seats kind of do it all. And the adjustments for them are on the door. And you can see that there's just a lot going on just looking at the door controls. Different positions for the seat bottom, for the end of the seat for thigh support. You can adjust them individually. Look at this. How fun is that? If one leg wants to be lower than the other. Obviously, seat bottom, seat back, lumbar, all kinds of adjustment. 3-position seat memory. The seat massaging itself is done in the center console touchscreen, and I'll show you that in a minute. Otherwise, you do largely have the usual controls down here. You have a 28 speaker stereo system right here, and this is the opening for the door. Again, it's solenoid driven, but if you lose battery power, there is another door open right here. This is actually mechanical. Nice little Lincoln kick plate right here. Usual controls here on this side. You do have tilt and telescoping steering. It is power adjust right there. You can see one of the 2 paddle shifters right there. The steering wheel at first glance is lovely, has a lot of buttons on it and all those kinds of things, but there's nothing too special about it, right? Except there is a neat little trick on its own that I really appreciate. This button right here looks like cruise control, right? Well, press that and all these buttons light up to illuminate all the different cruise control options you have. This does, of course, have adaptive cruise control. There's this distance setting right there, and I will take it on a highway test later to talk about those things. That is a fully digital instrument cluster screen right there, and then a 10-inch center console touchscreen right there with lots of options. As you can see, all kinds of things right there. Apple CarPlay, but seats. I wanted to talk about seats, because look at all these options you have here. Yes, you can have a massage, you can adjust the intensity and where it does what, and all those kinds of things. I have never met a massaging seat I didn't like, and that still remains true today. Looking down, we've got this push button Prindle setup right here, and I will say this is definitely the most elegant version of it I have seen so far. It is a little bit tucked away, almost too much, but you quickly get used to it, no problems, and it ultimately allows for more real estate for other things down here, which I appreciate. But quickly, we do also have a heated steering wheel and heated and ventilated seats for both the passenger and driver, and plenty of controls for your stereo and the center console screen, etc., etc. Of course, we have drive modes. I'll get to that in a second. Couple of cup holders, some more storage space, and some more USB ports, electric parking brake, and more storage down here. But there is one more thing to show. This right here is your Qi wireless charger. I think it's elegant, holds it in place, and then you can use the screen for whatever you need. Everything's done. Looking up, we do have a sunglasses holder, and of course, we also get controls in front for the panoramic moonroof. That's the first half done. Lovely. Okay, drive modes. You get many, many drive modes, and they all have fancy names. So I'll start turning the dial, but I'll move the camera up here so you can see that you have normal, slippery, so loose conditions, that's fair enough. Deep conditions, so deeper snow, mud, those kinds of things. Or you can go the other way and go from normal to conserve, which is like an eco driving mode. Excite, that's like sport mode. And this is a big SUV, but it's also a big SUV with air springs and adaptive shock absorbers, and it is rear wheel drive based. Hint for the handling test coming up. Then you also have Preserve EV that holds the charge of the battery, actually charges it up to 75%. So if you want to go full EV later, or Pure EV. So if you want to be in EV mode, you can do that, assuming you have the battery for it. Anyway, lots of drive modes, lots of talk about driving. I think we've done enough talk in the car. Let's get back to the drive. All right, let's dig into the powertrain. The one and only engine installed in the Aviator is a twin turbocharged 3-liter V6. Both the block and the heads are aluminum. It has dual overhead cams, direct injection, and variable valve timing. Compression ratio is a pretty average these days, 9.5 to 1, and I say average for turbocharged engines. But not quite as average, and happily so, is the horsepower. You get 400 horsepower and 415 pound-feet of torque from that 3-liter. And you're almost always at the torque or the power peak anyway, because you get a 10-speed automatic transmission to work with it. But because this is the Grand Touring and a plug-in hybrid, like I said, we also get an electric motor that makes its own 101 horsepower and gobs and gobs of torque. Lincoln doesn't say exactly how much, but it's got to be a lot, because the total system horsepower for the Grand Touring is 494 horsepower and 630 pound-feet of torque. Starting with a 6 with torque, good start. The plug-in hybrid, of course, also gets a battery pack. It is a 13.6 kilowatt-hour lithium-ion battery pack. And according to the EPA, is worth 21 miles of electric-only driving range. Also, because this is a Grand Touring, all-wheel drive is standard, but if you get a base Aviator, it's actually a rear-wheel drive, not front-wheel drive machine. And from like a fundamental chassis balance point of view, I think that's a very good thing. It's very good for weight distribution, for one. And I must say, it is a very potent powertrain. My gosh, I'm going to show you in a minute, but 630 pound-feet of torque, 494 horsepower, electric motor power response. This thing is quick. And it's also quite quiet. Even when the engine's running, it is very much in the background. With a 10-speed automatic transmission, we have tons of ratio range to work with, so it's never spinning very quickly. And oftentimes, you'll just find yourself in electric mode, not using the engine at all. But just for an example, the engine is running right now, and it is doing so very quietly. It is a very, very good engine, very dynamic in that it can provide that much power, but then also be that much in the background when you're just cruising. The only thing that I'm not a huge fan of is the throttle map. There is a lot of throttle tip-in, so you can get a lot of jump starts unless you're very delicate with the throttle. Other than that, I think it's great, but you're gonna have to adjust your foot to this throttle a little bit. You don't need to worry about the throttle map when you just stab the gas and then you get kicked down, and then you can definitely hear the engine, and then you definitely get moving. This thing is not slow, and this thing weighs nearly 3 tons, and it is not slow. In fact, it's got a slightly better power to weight ratio than a 2022 Porsche Macan S. How about that? And yet, you can still hold your head up high when it comes to fuel economy. Assuming you keep the battery charged, you get 56 combined miles to the gallon equivalent, which is a pretty darn good number for something this size. If you deplete the battery and keep on going, you get a 23 mile per gallon equivalent, which is about average for something this size. But I will tell you that when I was just putzing around, starting on a full battery pack, but definitely using the engine here and there, I was achieving well better than 70 miles to the gallon. So it highly depends on weather condition and your driving style. Okay, better weight to power ratio than a Porsche Macan S? Yes, I definitely want to show you how well this car accelerates. All right, everybody, time for an acceleration test. See what this turbocharged 3-liter can do with the help of an electric motor. It is a big, heavy car. All right, let's see how it goes. Come to a complete stop. Bit of brake torque. Oh man, I gotta hold the brakes harder. And off we go. Oh man. Wow. That is deceptively fast. So that was deceptively fast. We had that lurch right at the beginning because of the brake torque, but the launch was a bit on the smooth side. It wasn't quite as aggressive as I was expecting, but it just had this good, strong, consistent pull. Man, this thing has some real muscle. It is quite fast. And the fact that I was getting 80 miles to the gallon until I got here, yeah, pretty cool. So I've mentioned it a couple times already, but we actually have an air suspension. We have air springs that are load leveling and actually adjustable ride height. We also have adaptive shock absorbers and a rear wheel drive based setup. All of those things give you the impression that maybe, just maybe, this thing could be a handler. But I also just recently told you that this thing weighs over 5,600 pounds. Whew. And we don't exactly have super grippy summer-only performance tires, do we? So, this is a conundrum, this one. Of course I had to test it. Let me show you how this Aviator Grand Touring handles. All right, everybody, time for a handling test. I do have the Aviator Grand Touring in Excite mode, which is as close as I can see to sport mode, and I have the traction control off. Let's see how it goes. Oh man, Yeah, real muscle here, for sure. Wow. Not a lot of grip and a decent amount of body roll, but good control from the car. And I have to say, you get more grip than I expected. There's not a lot of grip, but it's more than I expected looking at these tires. This is better than I expected. This handles completely competently. I've got traction control off, and I've got a lot of power here, and I've got much better than expected chassis balance. I'd say, considering how good the rest of the car is, the steering is quite a bit lighter than I would hope. I would like a firmer steering wheel to make it easier to get more precise and dial it in. It's still pretty light, even in Excite driving mode. But overall, this thing will even kick the rear end out a little bit if you're pushing. You've got a lot of power going to that rear axle. You've got a lot of power, period. And you've got decent chassis balance, okay body control, but well tuned. It's progressive movements in the car. And the chassis is firm. Everything about it is actually pretty competent. Big SUV like this, of course some people might want to tow with that, and of course you certainly can, plug-in hybrid or no, but being a plug-in hybrid does actually hurt you. So, assuming you get the Class 4 towing package with the Aviator, you can tow up to 6,700 pounds with the gasoline engine only model, but only 5,600 pounds with the plug-in hybrid model. Regardless though, that still gets you into a decent sized camper, decent sized boat, lots of recreational toys, etc., etc. And if you want to use toys like that, there's a good chance you'd have to drive somewhere. Well, let me tell you that this is a fantastic cruising machine. I already told you about how quiet the Powertrain is and how potentially efficient it is too, depending on how diligent you are with charging the battery. But the air springs and the adaptive shock absorbers also, of course, work the other way to calm everything down when you just want a smooth ride. And of course, that's true on roads like this or on the interstate. I tested it there as well. Let me show you that. All right, everybody, time for a quick stint on the interstate. I am in the conserve driving mode and traction control is back on. I do also have a dead battery in terms of the 13.6 kilowatt hour battery pack, so the engine will be running, and that's nice to see how quiet it is. Okay, up to speed, moving with traffic at around 75 miles an hour. I do very much like that you have the ability to switch between normal and adaptive cruise control. I am using the adaptive cruise control just to see how it works, though me personally, I would prefer normal cruise control and worry about distance myself. But you could see there was a long list of things that you could turn on and off and have adjustments for, and I really appreciate that. The traction control is working just fine, and we do have some steering assistance as well. So I'm going to briefly take my hand off the wheel. Yeah, and it's doing a pretty good job to keep us in the center of the lane. Not perfect, but yeah, pretty close, I have to say. Looking at the core functions of a car on the interstate, the engine is running, but it is running at around 1,700 RPM. So it is very much in the distance, nice and quiet. And road noise isolation is quite good. I am impressed at how quiet these tires are specifically, and general road noise is pretty minimal. Wind noise is a little bit higher than I was hoping for. We can hear wind kind of baffling around over body parts of the car, but it is certainly not loud. It would be very easy to carry a conversation in this car, have a nice long road trip in this car without any trouble. Also, I do quite like the comfort of these seats and all the adjustment you have in the 36,000 way adjustable seats we have here. So seats are really comfortable, the interior is beautiful, and it is also functionally easy to use, and I've got lots of luxuries in here, of course. Heated steering wheel, heated seats, ventilated seats, and on and on. So staying comfortable in this car is no problem. And for a car this size, yeah, efficiency's not bad either. This is not a cheap SUV. I'll admit, I got a touch of sticker shock when I first saw the price. But then I equally got a bit of a shock when I first walked in and saw this interior. This is beautiful in here. Really nice leathers, really nice interior quality and stitching. The screens are nice and elegantly placed. The switchgear looks good. You have metal and soft touch plastics and soft materials. This is a very pleasant, inviting space to occupy. And I can see myself being here and being comfortable for a long time, especially with massaging seats. Couple that with the fact that you could definitely confuse a few sports car drivers if they ever wanted to drag race you, and confuse them even further when you kept up with them in few corners. This thing actually offers quite a lot, and it does so in comfort and in style. So yes, this does require a healthy bank account, to be sure. But if you're lucky enough to have one, this one is elegant, delivers a nice ride, looks great, keeps you very comfortable, and can get your heart pumping as well. I'm Robin Warner, thank you for watching. And if you are still watching, I would really appreciate it if you like this video. Doing so helps me out quite a lot. Okay, goodbye. All right, time for another massage. Yeah, there it is.